This is the Functionised podcast.
There we go. Hey,
May
Al, how
you be
you
a
doing
better
today?
version of yourself each day. Live Functionised.
Hi.
Hey, Mel, how you doing today?
Good. How are you?
I'm phenomenal. It's a pleasure to actually get to talk to you. I've read your book now. Thank you very much for sending it my way, which was, I haven't actually got to read a book like that since I was in chiropractic school, where it was not a textbook, step by step, but it was really, I don't want to say entertaining, but I kept on going through it. I really enjoyed it, and thank you for putting that together.
Oh, thanks so much for that.
With your background in more entertainment, if you would, to start with, how did you get from entertainment all the way to, you could be considered at this point really a expert physician without being the physician on the topic of thyroid dysfunction? How did that entire journey actually take place?
Well, it certainly wasn't effing planned. I will tell you that. It was an absolute accident. I had been pursuing, I started off as an actor in Hollywood. And as a result, it's better now. But at the time, you know, what was expected of you is that you were a size 2 or a 4 and you look like an athlete. So in my mind, I was like, I'm going to do all the things to get there. And I did all of those things wrong now that I know better, but it involved a lot of chronic cardio, over exercising, low fat, low carb, not a good combination, and really overworking out. And so I was a carbohydrate dependent sugar addict. And I thought that this paradigm was the right way to go because at the time I could not even Google paleo or primal. There was no such thing for me to look into. The closest thing to it was Atkins or keto, which was a very rare thing people would do. And so I got into this, and what happened was while I'm pursuing all this acting, I got horrifically fat and was wondering what's happening to me. My body's falling apart. And then that led me on a journey that took me to realizing that 99% or more of the doctors in this country are really uninformed on the topic of thyroid health, which it shouldn't be because it's really easy to fix and it's really easy to figure out, and that they were all just looking at it in the wrong way. And so that's really what led me to accidentally become a subject expert. I had to figure it out myself because I was left in the dust by so many doctors in Los Angeles, like over 24.
I'll jump in here. I think Jim dropped off, so I'll throw him in when we get back here. But
okay.
I've thrown your Amazon link on the comments here.
Okay, great. The connection was off between us. I could tell, like, you were running the intro and he was saying, "Hey, Elle, how are you?" even though the intro was running. So I don't know what the delay is.
We'll get him back. I imagine you've been doing a lot of these live streams and a lot of these Zooms lately. And the challenge is both audio and then the internet connections. But that's what we do. We work around it, much like in this pandemic. You figure things out. In your daily work, have you done what kind of adjustments have you had to make?
Not too many. I do everything. I mean, other than not being able to speak in person at an event or something, everything is really done online. All of my podcasts that I record, and then also a lot of interviews that I do, and online summits are all online. So, it's not much has changed at all, to be honest with you.
All right. So in a way, you were kind of prepared for this, but not.
I was so prepared for this pandemic. Yeah.
And I found myself traditionally, we with the podcast, we try to get the people in person. I love the natural interactions with people in person. Sometimes I prefer to make fun of people in person, but we do a lot of comedy-based podcasts. But
nice.
I think moving like this, though, I was afraid that the interactions wouldn't be the same. I was afraid. I was like, well, will it be lost in translation, talking to people in a little square box across the screen? And I've found one, it works really well. And two, I think people adjusted very quickly. And three, it was kind of interesting. I got to see a lot of people's pets. I meet a lot of pets in the background. You kind of get a window into people's home life, which you would never see. Maybe you would meet somebody in an office or something. Yeah. And I think that showed a kind of a fun side of things as well, maybe a more personal side. So, and I think I think for people like us who do a lot of things online, I don't want to say the pandemic was a good thing, but I think it got people used to, maybe, dressing from the waist up and maybe more willing to do something like this.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think like I'm getting on Zoom calls with friends that I've known since I was 8 years old, and we might all be on some text thread, but we never ever moved it to a Zoom. But just because of the pandemic and everybody's Zooming, we were like, hey, let's try it. And now it's become a weekly thing. And that's so awesome. I get to see everybody. I don't get to see these people often. We live all over the country. So in a way, like, hey, and that had nothing to do with work. That's just like a cool thing we're going to keep up from now on, FaceTiming my parents more often. So in a way, I think the forced online stuff, and then of course the talk of everyone doing it got, I had a birthday party on Zoom, and, so it's cool. Like, it's all great. It's like, hey, thanks everyone. And then for all the people that didn't even know Zoom existed, they're like, oh, this is great. So I think it's been really valuable. And a lot of my friends are now, their companies and employers are realizing that they're doing just great at home, and no one ever needed to come into an effing office. And that's great, because that's 2 hours a day in smoggy commute you don't have to do now. Or, right. So, and then the cost, benefit analysis you do as a company with overhead. So I think in a lot of ways, there's so many obviously there's so many negatives too, but there's some really interesting positives that could lead to just better quality of life for people, in the workforce, I think.
Yeah, I think someone explained. So you're in the California area where there's obviously a lot of traffic, a lot of people.
Yeah. Yes, a lot of smog, right?
A lot of congestion. I'm closer to New York. I'm about an hour away, but a lot of people where I live, they commute. They make that commute to New York. So it's an hour and 15, hour and a half there, hour and a half back. That's 3 hours out of a 24-hour day. That's a big chunk. And perhaps they don't have to do that as often as they did before. I think a lot of employers are like, companies like, you know what, maybe, you can come in 3 days a week and work from home and do it like this a couple days a week. And that's 6 hours with your family.
That's right. I mean, or exercising, or just being able to have a little bit of an easier morning, because you don't have to jump in the shower and put on a suit and be in uncomfortable clothes at an unergonomic desk. And now you can pace around your apartment talking on your phone. And I mean, it's so valuable. So I think that that's great, because I think more people should work at home. Our company has always mostly has the employees working from home for Primal Kitchen, except for the people in the warehouse who have to distribute the goods, etc. And so they've always sort of done it from the beginning. But I'm really glad to hear that some of these companies are starting to go, oh, you know what? Everyone's doing great at home. In fact, more productive, they found, a lot of stay-at-home employees. And my friends are just so excited about it. They're like, yeah, why weren't we doing this before? Why were we ever going into the office?
Yeah.
What do you think happened to Jim? Do you think we lost him for a good year?
I'll give him another 5 minutes. I find.
Are we live right now? It says we're live.
We are, but I do this all the time. So, I could come up with a million questions for you. I haven't gone through the training of a medical degree or a chiropractic degree. So I'll leave the expert questions that he had for you, for him. I don't want to steal any of his questions. But I found your story interesting. You grew up in Chicago, and you went out. I myself went out to I lived in LA for a year, back in the early 2000s. I was working for a startup entertainment company that Ben Affleck and Matt Damon had started. They found themselves in a position where they could do more things than just act. They had just won the screenwriting Oscar for Good Will Hunting.
Was that Project Greenlight?
Yes, it was.
Okay. Do you know Joseph Middleton, who was the casting director on that?
I remember Joseph Middleton. Yes.
I used to intern for him, and it was great because I used to read with all the actors coming in. So like every American Pie movie, I've read with all of those actors, like, all the people coming in. It was a very interesting experience interning for him. I did that like twice a week for a couple of years. And then the Project Greenlight came out, and I was like, oh, okay. So yeah, I knew who the casting director was on that.
Yeah, so I don't know if you ever ran into Chris Moore at all. He was the producer on the American Pie movies, and
I was likely in a room with them and auditioning people at the time, and just can't place the face. Yeah,
he was a big, tall, redheaded fellow who he was he was an interesting guy. I liked him a lot, but he was also part of the company Live Planet that produced Project Greenlight, and that's exactly when I hopped on right in the beginning. Project Greenlight was the first thing I worked on. Cool. I was more on the tech side, more websites, development, graphics, and I did a lot of the technical support for the screenwriters who were having trouble uploading their screenplays for the contest. That so you've been out there for a number of years, then.
Yeah, I've been out here since 2000, so it's been a long time, and in California a little bit longer. And it's really fun. I'm still in the entertainment industry, and it's really fun. I mean, it's a little shut down right now, and things are precarious, but for the most part, it's a really fun industry to be in.
Yeah, I had a fun time. I was only out there for a year, working on the first season of Project Greenlight, and it was fun. Although I remember moving out there, everything was like, oh, everyone's so fit out there. You're going to be healthy, and it was anything but. I find myself eating out a lot. Just I was working crazy hours, and I wish I could have been more healthy. But it's cool that you're. How long were you in the entertainment industry?
Well, I'm still in it, but I think I really, yeah, I'm still in it. So I have a documentary that's out there, and I have TV and film and scripts and things like that being pitched around town. That was initially where I was a writer, and then accidentally fell into the health arena and nonfiction. But essentially, it was initially writing comedy. So you still have scripts out there. You're pitching stuff. Still in the game. I am still an actor, so I have an agent. Occasionally go off for auditions. So I was on Brooklyn Nine-Nine a couple of years ago. I think it's episode 218, second season. So occasionally you get stuff like that. It's fun. And yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Some of my best times in life have been in the entertainment industry here in LA. So
that's amazing. I was on a reality TV show for 7 seasons. We shot out here. It was a TV show called Comic Book Men, and it came on after The Walking Dead on AMC. So it was after I left LA though. I was like, okay, I'm good. I work with Kevin Smith, the director, and but I was doing all behind the scenes stuff. I was I ran his website and his merchandising arm. I was kind of his social media director before there was any social media. We started way back in the mid 1990s. But through a weird series of events, I wound up on reality TV.
What people don't realize, which if they're listening, I'd love to share, is that it's really not reality. And I think people need to finally get that memo because it is so manufactured. And so what you're seeing is really like a half-ass scripted show. They are, it's just.
The word we were asked to use was unscripted. And they were kind of like, you can call it reality, but unscripted, which was a more accurate term for sure. And
it's a little, and sometimes it can be a little sad to me because when they do casting for reality shows, they call it hot mess casting. And what are they looking for? They're looking for people that are hot messes, right? So it's sad because they're almost, going to exploit the character. Granted, that's their person's right. They decided to sign the dot and be in the show, but it's just a little tough because the vibe and intention behind all of that is, to me, just like, it's a little bit of a downer energy vibe. And because it's really made for conflict. It's made for putting out conflict, whether it's false or not, to generate that type of feeling in a person. And I feel like that's such a cheap shot. So I'm not a big fan of reality shows that involve the drama. Do you know what I mean? It's one thing if you have some nice contest or something simple or The Voice or whatever, where it's not where people are going to be pitted against each other. But the other stuff, man, it's like, woof, good luck jumping into that fire. I probably would never be on a reality show for that reason. Because and then, the way that they edit you too, right? You cannot get away with even trying to be halfway decent because they'll make you look a certain way too. So it's just kind of a funny world, but it's very popular.
Yeah,
right down the street. I was hiking the other day and someone pointed out we were on a hike and they're like, oh, there's the Bachelor house. And I was like, I've been living like I'm a mile away from this thing for all these years. I've never seen the show, but I was like, oh, okay, apparently they're right down the street.
You were this close to all the rose ceremonies. So
close.
We were very lucky. We didn't really have to deal with that. I got to be myself. Like, I'm not an actor. I work, I'll do some behind the scenes. I literally fell ass backwards into reality TV. And we didn't have to manufacture any drama. That's what I was worried about. Is that prior to that, the two reality shows filmed in Jersey were Cake Boss and Jersey Shore. And Jersey Shore, I was like, oh, I don't want to be Snooki. Like, do I have to get punched? Do I have to get drunk? Like, do I have to act like an idiot? And they're like, well, not completely, but
just a little bit.
I had some moments. I had a few moments, but I think people actually related to them. So it worked out, and we got 7 seasons, so I can't complain. 96 episodes, so I'm just
it's awesome.
I'm just humble bragging here. They're if anybody wants to watch them, they're on Amazon Prime Video right now. So
right on.
But I'm this is what I'm doing now is podcasting and connecting people. So. I just texted Jim. I haven't gotten a reply yet, so I don't.
Okay, well, we can always pick it up. So I guess if people are watching now and Jim's not here to interview me, let me just tell you a couple of things without giving a whole lecture on hypothyroidism. But so if anyone out there is suffering and you've got a thyroid issue or you think you do, aside from my book right back here, the Paleo Thyroid Solution, I have a free thyroid guide on my website. You can just go to elleruss.com. Right at the top, there's a tab. It says free thyroid guide. You click that and download it, and it's an active PDF. It has links to groups where you can find the best doctor in your state or country. It has the whole list of thyroid tests you need to get, what time of day to get them, etc. Then it also shares with you some questions like how to vet a doctor's office to even see if they know what they're talking about so that you don't go waste a copay and go sit in the office with a doctor that doesn't even know what they're talking about. Now, you can always do as much research and, reconnaissance missions as you want to, and then you'll still get into the doctor's office and realize they may not know what they're talking about. However, it's just a better way to kind of ward off that type of thing. So what that would entail would be like a list of questions that you could call and ask the nurse practitioner and say, hey, does the doctor do this? Do they do that? And through the questions, you'll be able to tell, is this even worth my time? Does this doctor even know enough? So you can always start with the free thyroid guide. The other option too is on my website. If you were to press the press tab, there are a select group of maybe 10 interviews in depth of me talking about hypothyroidism. And then, of course, anyone can just Google Elle Russ and thyroid, and at least 100 interviews will pop up. Some are more in depth on others. Some are more specialized on a problem called reverse T3. That's a thing. But there's so much free information. And I guess without going into detail, since Jim's not here, I just want to say that this is absolutely fixable. If you have a doctor that tells you, well, you're always going to suffer from X because you have a thyroid problem, that is a doctor who just doesn't know how to treat, diagnose, and fix a thyroid problem, because there is no such thing as that. It is completely fixable. So I get calls from all over the world every day. Half of those calls are the same thing. It's, well, they tested my thyroid and it was fine. Was it? Not buying it. Because 9 times out of 10, the doctor says your thyroid's fine. They didn't even take all the right tests. They didn't look at it properly. So now the person's going to be gaslighted, essentially, accidentally gaslighted, thinking they're crazy because they have these symptoms. And they're like, well, my doctor said my thyroid was fine, though. So it must be this, or it must be that, or it must be no. So I just at this point can't ever rely on someone saying, my doctor tested my thyroid and they said it's fine. I'm like, let me see the results. 9 times out of 10, it wasn't fine. The doctor missed it. So what everyone has to know is that 200 million people in the world have thyroid issues. It's the #1 prescription in America, and that is just one thyroid hormone. Okay. So 25 plus million Americans have it. 60% are undiagnosed. Okay. And most of the doctors are uninformed. So if you have a missing thyroid gland because of thyroid cancer and they took it out and now you're on thyroid hormone replacement and you're not doing well, it's because the doctors probably just put you on Synthroid from the beginning, or they didn't know how to treat you. And this just is par for the course. There's something that the doctor missed, either an underlying test like ferritin, which is iron storage, or they missed that they needed to multi-dose something, or missed that they were underdosing the patient and the patient was still hypothyroid, even though they were on thyroid hormone replacement, which is possible. So just because you're on thyroid hormone replacement, if you're not feeling freaking awesome all day long, like I'm on fire, then something's up, and you can't anymore continue to do what I did for a couple of years and learn my lesson on this, which is hand your health to a doctor and expect them to fix it. You have to get educated about this. That's what I'm here for. I coach people privately on that. Sometimes people want private coaching on their specific situation and their details, or they just want to talk to me to hear it from me versus read a book, whatever it is. You have to get knowledgeable, because otherwise you'll never get fixed. You will literally never get fixed. You have to know what's going on so you can help your doctor help you, because most of them don't know what's up. So you have to learn to advocate for yourself. Now, totally different topic, but my second book, called Confident as F-U*K, I won't say the word. And look, it's hard to have a little bit of confidence when you're suffering and your neurotransmitters off and you're depressed because you have low T3 and you're hypothyroid. Absolutely. But at the same time too, you muster through that perseverance and it pays. But you can't just leave it all to the wayside, because you're going to see the doctor. You're going to be like, oh God, yay, hope. They're going to fix me. They're great. And then they don't. Now you just wasted a year. Now you go to the next one. Now, it's been 5 years and you still have hypo symptoms. So this shiz is completely correctable once you get on the right path, within like 3 to 6 months to a year max. And when I say year max, I mean that would be someone who's got a multitude of issues that they're struggling with. For example, like they have Lyme disease that they're battling, plus they have something else, or they just went through menopause. It doesn't matter what the storm of things are. It just really matters that you are on the right path, because once you're on there, it's fixable within you. It is absolutely fixable. So people who are out there that are like, yeah, well, I am complaining of this, and I go to my doctor and they're like, no, your thyroid medication, everything's fine. Must be this, must be that, must need to give you Prozac. Maybe we should give you a weight loss. Oh, are you overeating? No, I'm running for a marathon. Really? Are you? Are you not telling me? You'll get accused of closet eating disorders and things like this. The bottom line is this: if something's bugging you, and you feel it's a hyposymptom or not, you have any kind of depression, brain fog, energy, lack of metabolism, you're likely not on the right dosage or the not right combination of hormones. And you're just with an uninformed dummy doctor. It happens. So this is why I come out and do what I do to spread the message, because I would like everyone's A to Z to be shorter than the years that I suffered that were taken from me through hypothyroidism, and the other people who have spent 40 years with 2 trips to Mayo clinics, Cleveland clinics, everywhere. Couldn't figure out what's wrong with them. Turns out the doctors the entire 30 years never tested the thyroid correctly. Can you imagine being in that situation, having spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on your health, freaking out, thinking you're crazy? No one can figure out what it was. You go all over the world, and it turns out they missed a basic thing that could have saved that person's life and not put them on a trajectory. Because when you're a hypothyroid, you are in a disease state. The longer you're there, something's bound to show up. You're going to get an affliction you otherwise would not have gotten in that state. So the idea is to get out of that state as quickly as possible, whether it's natural or through medication. There's a variety of ways to do it. I'm not an advocate of just giving people thyroid hormones and being like, that's going to fix it all. That's not always the fix. Sometimes it's a very simple, dumb lifestyle or dietary or nutrient fix. A lot of times it is, and sometimes it's not. So I just want to share that if you guys are suffering, and I want to just go through, while we have some time here, depending on what happens with Jim, there's over like 30 or 40 symptoms in my book, but a few that ring really true and are very common are the fact, like the inability to lose weight or gaining weight at a rapid speed. Waking up in the morning and having puffy eyes and face, feeling like you drank a bottle of, MSG or soy sauce or something, or feeling like you cried all night and you've got that like puffy eyes thing, and low energy in the morning, having it take like a couple hours for you to really get your stuff together to even like muster up the energy. That's it. Depression, general malaise. Any kind of mental thing that seems scary to you. Like, for example, you feel like you're getting dumber. It's a thing. So when your brain has more T3 receptors, which is the biologically active thyroid hormone T3, and it has more receptors than anywhere else. So when you're hypothyroid, things like this will happen. You will be really klutzy, even though you're normally athletic, and you'll bump into things. Brain to hand dexterity is off. You'll have really messy handwriting. You might say words backwards or be like a dyslexic and not be able to find the word or mix up the word. cognitive things that to you might go, oh my God, I'm getting dumb, which it's not. But the reason I mention this is because it's a scary thing that when it happens, you don't feel comfortable voicing it. Not everybody calls their friend and is like, by the way, I think I'm getting old and dumb, like real quick. You know what I mean? So that's one of them. The other is this general malaise. So for example, people with hypothyroidism, when you don't have enough thyroid hormones to give you the energy and the life that you need, because everyone needs it to live, then your adrenals will like over respond. And so when this happens, you can have adrenal fatigue. And there's some symptoms that go along with that are classic. One is the sensitivity to light, sound, and smells. Like normally used to love perfume or essential oils, and now you can't deal with it at all. You can't deal with anyone's cologne, just can't handle it. The other would be really like sensitivity to light, like just really, really, brutal with light, like cannot deal with bright light. And then sound as well. Like, let's say you live in an apartment and you're like, oh my God, our neighbors are so loud, but it's no different than it has been for the past 6 months. It's just like you are now attuned to it. So those are a few things to look out for. Temperature is a big thing if you're freezing all the time. Now, these people usually know who they are, and that would be you have freezing hands and feet all the time. That being said, we don't want hot hands and feet all the time. They are a little bit cooler than us. The reason you know the difference is because you have an internal chill. You are cold on the inside. So it's not like, oh, are my hands cold? It's like, no, you feel cold and you know who you are because you're the person that's like, I'm freezing when no one else is. And you can test almost hypothyroidism through temperatures, which I put in my book as well, and to get a baseline to see, am I hypothyroid? So temperature issues, dry, cracked skin, loss of curliness in hair falling out at a rapid rate, thinning of eyebrows, any gynecological stuff. This goes for male and female. So if you're a male and you're not waking up with erections or you're having trouble recovering from exercise or sleep, totally an issue. It will lower a man's testosterone. But then you go to the doctor, they check testosterone, and they're like, oh, we'll just give you testosterone. Nope, because they didn't correct the precursor to testosterone, which is your thyroid. The thyroid is in charge of the production and regulation of your sex hormones. So that's why you always get the thyroid fully checked first and assessed and fixed before you introduce exogenous, bioidentical hormones. So women would be infertility, the miscarriages, issues with any kind of excess heavy bleeding, fibroids, polyps, endometriosis, any polycystic ovarian syndrome, any kind of like gynecological effery that's going on, it's usually all related to the thyroid. So you never want to get pregnant unless you get your thyroid checked appropriately, because who needs to go through a needless miscarriage if you don't have to, right? So that's also an indicator. And if you're someone who's struggled with infertility and or miscarriages, then this is what you need to get checked out, because this could literally be your answer. So those are some of the symptoms. Some others are inner itching of the ears, restless legs, heavy legs, any kind of changes in sexual function, whether it be the strength of the orgasm or anything going on down there, like I said, with erections in guys. Hair is a big thing, skin. A weird one that's classic is somehow on the right hand, for some reason, I don't know why it's the right hand, on the inner index finger, not like on the back, not on the front, but just like on the corner, this inner index finger will be dry, scaly, cracked skin that no amount, and it's just there. It's not like it's all over your hand, and no amount of moisturizer or anything will fix it. And sometimes there'll be like a little split, like an actual crack. That's an indicator of thyroid issues as well. So I just always like to put that out there. Cracked heels, cracked skin, acne when you normally didn't get any acne. I had perfect skin my whole life, but when I was hypothyroid, I had horrible lumps underneath my skin and problems with acne and picked my face. And I was just constantly having issues again because it throws off hormones in a variety of ways. So those are just some symptoms to think of. The other is something we call, well, it's like brain fog. Aside from the brain, hand dexterity, and some of the issues with cognitive abilities that I mentioned. Brain fog is a feeling of we've all had a cold at one time where our head is totally stuffy. And in those moments, everyone knows what it feels like to just stare into space and nothing's fun, right? Like you don't want to watch a movie, you don't want to eat, you don't want to read. You're just like this zombie that's staring into space because you've got a head cold. That's what brain fog is without the sinus problem. That's what that feels like without the sinus pressure and the mucus and all of that stuff. It's the same sense of, look, you could get into a car accident because you're not paying attention. I mean, literally, it affects your brain. Also, anyone who suddenly got like anxiety attacks and suddenly like need Xanax or something like this. Anxiety attacks are totally related to what happens with the adrenals and cortisol during this time. So when I was very hypothyroid, I started having panic attacks for the first time in my entire life. And I didn't even necessarily believe people who had them. I thought, I don't know what they're describing to me. This sounds crazy, until it happened to me. When I look back in hindsight, that was just because I had zero thyroid hormones in my body. My body was running off of my adrenaline and cortisol. My adrenals were totally shot. This can create a very shaky, anxiety-ridden panic attack environment. So I also just want to throw that out there because it may not be you. It may not be you. I have not had an anxiety attack since. It was a temporary state of being that hypothyroidism threw me into. So you're not crazy. Also, too, okay, I'm depressed. You go to the doctor. They give you Prozac. Great. That'll work for a couple of months. Then it won't work because you didn't get to the root of the problem. They treat depression with thyroid hormones for a reason. So literally, the levels of T3 in your body, the biologically active thyroid hormone, are the difference between feeling great and not feeling great. Too high or too low. We're Goldilocks. They're somewhere in the middle, and everyone's got their own place that's right for them. So this is important to all aspects of health, and nobody should go forward with any kind of surgery, protocol, or anything unless you have ruled out and assessed the thyroid and seen that it is in great shape.
Well said, my friend. I'm glad that you're putting that out there for other people, just so they don't have to suffer years of it's like, what's going on, and it could be
years, guys.
Boiled down to the thyroid. Can anybody who think they might have some thyroid symptoms, can they hop on your website? And is that the best way to contact you?
Yeah, you can always hop on my website, download the free thyroid guide. You can press contact and reach out to me if you're interested in private coaching or something like that. I speak with people all over the world. It's the same everywhere, help. Like, for example, this morning I spoke with a client and their doctor. Which is great. Look, their doctor's open to that. Amazing. That's rare. It's very rare. The doctor was open to it. The doctor was like, hey, I know some stuff, but I may not know everything. Maybe this author that these people are talking to, I should listen to. We all got on a call and we talked about, and I think it was helpful for everybody. So I do this all the time, all over the world, whether it's speaking with a doctor and their patient or a patient, so that patient is armed so they can go advocate for themselves with their doctor. Because here's the thing. Now some doctors are going to be completely resistant and they don't want to be told anything and they're going to do it their way. But if you are a patient that's on top of it, you've researched your stuff and you are educating yourself, a doctor is more willing to practice medicine with you. Okay, so there's so many reasons to get armed with the knowledge. You also could get a great doctor, they fix you, and then what if you run into a problem? You have to know this. So the bottom line really on all of this is always, if you just got diagnosed with anything, first of all, you get a bunch of different opinions, right? But aside from that, you better learn all about whatever that is, because I guarantee you're going to maybe even learn more than your doctor does and be able to help you help yourself faster. So, right. So anyone can go on there. Again, free thyroid guide. You can also buy my book on Amazon.com, the Paleo Thyroid Solution. It's in Kindle and paperback. It's a great resource to have. There's an incredible Q&A with Dr. Forsman in the back of my book, where we talk all about, why don't doctors know this? Why weren't they taught it? Why do they do this wrong? We go through all of that so that if you even need to hear from a doctor about why your doctor doesn't know what's up, or maybe your doctor even needs to read it. This is just 40-year-old outdated training from medical school that no longer applies. But some doctors don't take the extra effort to continue to geek out as an MD and go and search and be like, this doesn't make sense. Why is my patient still complaining? They're on Synthroid, but this should be fine. This is what I was taught. But they keep searching. Those are the doctors you need to look for. You need to look for the functional medicine doctors, truly integrative doctors who still geek out on this stuff, man. That's what you want, is a doctor who's going to be like, I'm going to get to the bottom of this, right? And they're usually going to spend more time with you than this allotted 10 minutes where a doctor is just going to take one thyroid test, completely not test you correctly, and then go, oh, you have a thyroid problem, here you go. And you're like, wait, what? Yeah. And oftentimes when they do that, the person doesn't have a thyroid problem at all. So again, it's not to say don't listen to your doctor. It's to say you have to be weary. I live in Los Angeles. I went through 24 who didn't know what they were talking about, and I had to dose myself with thyroid hormones. I was ordering them off the internet, using the doctors for blood work and not listening to them, and dosing myself. I shouldn't have had to do that. But I successfully did it twice in 10 years with 2 different bouts of hypothyroidism because I was left in the dust by doctors. So that's why and how I became a subject expert, and why I'm out there kind of imparting this wisdom so that you can be your own subject expert too, at least in your own case, so that you can advocate for yourself, get the right doctor, get on the right combination of hormones, or clean up your whole body so that you don't need any of it. Maybe, maybe that's it's temporary, and maybe you get off it someday. So those are just some of the things I can think about now without being prompted by questions. Let me just think of a couple.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I appreciate you took it upon yourself to.
Should have done this before. Sorry, we were like chatting about stuff before. I should have just.
Oh yeah, no problem. I was hoping Dr. Jim would be able to come back. Maybe a construction worker severed his internet connection. We won't know, but he'll answer the more medical question, asking the more medical questions.
We can get, I'll get into details with him when either he comes back on, or maybe we redo this. But
sure.
Again, just to put out the hope out there too, though, that this is a lot of people too say this. They're very, if they have to go on thyroid hormone replacement, they're very scared, right? They're like, I don't want to take a medication the rest of my life. Like, okay, nobody does. Like I get this fear, but I want to kind of dispel it. So when we talk about medications, you see the stuff on TV and it's got like a laundry list of side effects, right? And you're like, damn, my gosh, anal leakage. Like I don't, right? Like all these horrible, those are medications that manipulate your body in a way that that your body was not meant to work. Therefore, you're going to have a laundry list of, like the birth control pill, laundry list of things that could happen to you, because it's manipulating the female organs in a way that nature did not intend. And so you're going to run into a problem. Thyroid hormones are different. They should not be seen as a medication, even though they are a prescription. It is giving your body what it's missing. Therefore, there are no side effects unless misused, which is very rare.
Right.
So I want to point that out too, because if you're out there and you have to go on thyroid hormone replacement, or you're edging towards that and you're scared, don't be. The other issue with that would be to not take the thyroid hormone and suffer another couple of years, because now you're spending another couple of years hoping something's going to turn around. And in this disease state, other things creep in. So now all of a sudden you get misdiagnosed with polycystic ovarian syndrome, and you're bleeding abnormally. And now you've got this, and now you've got that. And you can have doctors try to patchwork all the symptoms, but you never got to the bottom line, which is this little gland in our throat that dictates whether we live or not. The thyroid gland is so essential to life. If you don't have one, meaning it was surgically removed, you are dead. You're dead. The only people that survive without a thyroid gland, they have to take thyroid hormone replacement or they'll die. So if they're on a stranded island, it's not going to be very long for them. So what does that tell people? Okay. If you can't live without this gland, if you can't live without it, what do you think life's going to be like when you have suboptimal levels of thyroid hormone? You're going to be going through life in this kind of disease-ish state and inviting a whole bunch of other things that will only really be corrected once you correct the thyroid, but you'll spend and waste all your money and time trying to patchwork the Prozac for the depression, the this for that, the whatever. Nope. This for the hormonal imbalance. Nope. All you need to do is get back to the thyroid, fix that first, and then the cascade of the symphony of impulses go throughout the body, things get fixed, and whatever's not can then be taken care of. But at least you know that it's a residual, not caused by the thing, if that makes any sense. So hopefully that makes sense to people. And again, I'm always available. You can DM me on Instagram is where I'm most active. You can always contact me through my website and reach out for coaching or again, the free thyroid guide. I'm happy to email it back to anybody if they, reach out.
Yeah, thank you. Our website is Elle Russ, ELLERUSS.com. Instagram is _Elle Russ. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Twitter's _Elle Russ. And on Facebook, was it Elle Russ?
Elle Russ Official, yeah.
Russ Official.
And you can hear me every Monday. I interview people on the Primal Blueprint podcast. I interview New York Times bestselling authors, mind, body, health, all that stuff. And then I also have another show every Wednesday called kickasslifepodcast.com. You can go there, where my co-host Tara Garrison, she's a keto expert, also a personal trainer, and we just kind of talk a little bit of shiz every week about things that can improve your life. So those are ways to hear more from me. And yeah, feel free to reach out.
I'll tag those up. Definitely subscribe and listen to those podcasts. Pick up the Paleo Thyroid Solution on Amazon as well. And if you're going to pick that up, also grab Confident SF, How to Ditch Bad Vibes, Clean Up Your Past, and Cultivate Confidence in order to make your dreams a reality. Elle, thank you for hanging with me. I'm sorry, Dr. Jim dropped
That's
out.
all right. You know what? If he wants to pick it up again, we can come on and have a detailed discussion.
I have no doubt that he will, and he'll have more medical questions for you, I'm sure. But thank you so much. I really appreciate you.
Thank you.
And just the passion that you talk about this and healing people is very inspiring for sure. And I thank you for doing that. I think you've helped a lot of people, and you're going to help a lot of people. And I think that's amazing. So thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.